since media organizations commenced publication of the leaked Pandora Papers at the weekend. Several prominent politicians and business figures in Nigeria and on the African continent have been quaking in their boots. Like similar document leaks before it, the Pandora Papers have helped to expose the hidden fortunes and, in some cases, money laundering by some of the most powerful people in the world. Stories revealed so far include the owners of more than 1,500 UK properties bought using offshore firms, including individuals accused of corruption. How Governor Oyetola of Osun State used an offshore company to acquire a London property previously owned by an international fugitive under investigation by the Nigerian government. Inside former Governor Peter Obi's secret business dealings. How Governor Abubakar Bagudu of Kebbi State amassed billions and how he's hiding it. How the family of Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta secretly owned a network of offshore companies for decades. Joining us now to unpack these revelations is Musikilu Mojeed, an award-winning investigative journalist and editor-in-chief of Premium Times. We will also be having a discussion with him on what governments globally should be doing to tackle illicit financial flows. Welcome to the show, Mojeed, and thank you for joining us. Good morning. It's good to see you on Arise News.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, Musikilu, I see that your platform has been publishing stories on these Pandora Papers, Paradise Papers, Panama Papers, Pandora Papers. How much rot is in this Pandora box, otherwise known as Pandora Papers? And the other question to ask you is it illegal for people to save their money wherever they choose, whether it's offshore havens or it is locally, and to do whatever they like with whatever money they have?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abati. I have to say up front that ordinarily it is not illegal, it is not criminal for people to spend their money the way they prefer to do. However, if you go incorporate an offshore company for the process of owning assets, of course, people are worried. Why do you want to do that? Why do you not just own the assets directly? Why must you then appoint nominee directors and then try to hide behind the curtain? Why these nominee directors are the faces of your company, and then you use that to own assets? So people worried that there could be some kind of illicit financial flow once you do that. But in the cases regarding Nigeria that you have mentioned, there are even more important issues. There are issues of people. You are very familiar with the Nigerian Code of Conduct law. Now, once you take office in Nigeria, whether as a governor, as a minister, or any public office, you are supposed to step down and then declare your assets. So if you do not declare the assets that you have offshore, that's a violation of our laws. And if you do not declare those assets, it means possibly that you are not even paying taxes on them. It's possible. And even in Peter Obi's case that you mentioned, he also owns foreign account associated with those companies. You know that you cannot be in public office. The Constitution is very clear about that. You can't be in public office and then go ahead to run foreign account. It's not allowed. So why Peter Obi and any of those that have been reported about have a right to set up companies anywhere in the world? They have a right to spend their money to acquire properties. Then it must not be in violation of our laws. You referred in your introduction, you spoke about the Governor Oyetola's case. Of course, that's very curious and embarrassing if you ask me. A property that Nigeria was struggling to seize because Nigeria suspected that it was acquired with the proceeds of corruption, with Nigeria's oil money that was possibly stolen. And then how did Governor Oyetola not know that he should not have acquired that kind of property at that time? So now Nigeria couldn't enforce the court order it got over the property because Governor Oyetola went and bought the property, and then the Nigerian president then went and visited in that same property. Does it mean that we do not collect intelligence about where our president should visit? Is the president not supposed to be instructed, to be told, to be advised, to say, look, you can see Asiwaju anywhere, but you cannot see him in this property? So there are so many issues about people using nominee directors to own assets. Because if you make your money legitimately, why will you need to hide behind a curtain? Why do you need to use fronts to own assets? Those are the issues. But when you make your money legitimately, you are free to spend it as you like.
Well, the Panama Papers, there were only 2 casualties of that expose, the former prime ministers of Pakistan and Iceland, who lost their jobs as a result. For all the other people who were exposed in that Panama Papers scandal, the storm passed with their political and financial standing intact. Even all the legal loopholes they exploited remained intact. What do you think will be different this time?
Well, it's difficult to say. But I must say that the Panama Papers triggered a lot more impact than we know. You know, so many countries recover billions of dollars as a result of the Panama Papers. People who didn't pay tax were called in, they were made to pay tax. Even in Nigeria, during the VADE regime, the voluntary asset declaration scheme that the Buhari government put in place, of course, we know some people who had assets abroad, who went to government and confessed and paid some taxes. A lot of countries have strengthened their beneficial ownership regime. So a lot has happened. People were arrested, and I'm not sure that there are only 2 casualties. I think there are more. So we believe that the process of change, making our world more transparent, is a process. It can be slow, but it will definitely come. I know that even in Nigeria, things are getting better now. We are talking about it. There is a conversation about how to make our processes more transparent. So I know that this is bigger even than the Panama Papers. And I am optimistic that going forward, the conversation will get louder about how to throw a lot more light into what people do. And a lot of individuals too will be much more careful about how they conduct their affairs.
Okay, so let's talk about this expose as it concerns, a lot of top politicians in Nigeria. What are the hard facts? The Nigerians that have been mentioned in here, what are the hard facts as regards that? You've talked about Governor Oyetola. Let's talk about other people after the quick commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We still have Musikilu Mojeed, an award-winning investigative journalist and editor-in-chief of Premium Times. So, like I said before, give us the hard facts about other people. It's not only Governor Oyetola. What happened in the case of other politicians that have been mentioned, so that a lot of Nigerians that might not get the chance to read your reports can know what is happening, and they're watching now.
Yeah, before I spoke about Peter Obi earlier, except you want me to talk about it again. In the case of Peter Obi, he set up a company in the British Virgin Islands. He hired some guys from Monaco, known as a tax haven, to go set up a secret company for him in the British Virgin Islands, where he basically warehoused all his assets and then created a trust. But that's not a problem. He is the ultimate beneficial owner of that company, initially known as Gabrelia Investment. He later turned it to, change the name to PMGG Investment to reflect his own name, that of his wife, and those of his children. But that's not even a problem. The problem is that he did not declare the company and the assets. He did not. Then also, he did not declare the company and the assets they hold. And also, he had a company in the UK known as Nest International UK Limited. He did not step down until much later, years after he became governor. Nigerian law expects that you should step down from private businesses. You cannot remain as director while you run while you are in public office. So that is his own case. He did not declare his assets. So what does that mean? It means that perhaps he never paid even tax on those assets. And so he ran foreign accounts while in office. Those are huge violations of our laws. That's for Peter Obi. Then for Bagudu, of course, its own is very clear. Bagudu amassed so much money during the Abacha days, working with the Abachas. And he went on to warehouse. So basically what we provided in the case of Bagudu is that this is where he is keeping, he created all manner of trust, while he is keeping close to 100 million euros as we speak. Now you can imagine, we kept talking about the dollar losing value, the Nigerian economy in tatters and all of that. Imagine if 100 million euros of Bagudu's money, I mean the KB state governor, imagine if that money is within this economy. You can imagine what it will do. Banks could lend it to people and it will enhance liquidity in the system and all of that. So we provided clarity about how Bagudu made the money, security vote fraud and all manner of shenanigans. And then he was able to warehouse this money in a complicated trust. He initially had the Ridley Trust, and now, because he thought he had no enough control over the assets, he changed it to the Blue Trust, where although the money has been frozen now because of efforts by the U.S. government to confiscate that asset. So we provided that clarity. Then we moved on to the NPA acting MD, Bello Koko, who had some assets in the UK. Of course, he acquired a lot of those assets while in the private sector. He bought one while in office, which is in 2017. He acquired his latest asset. But that's not even a problem. If he has money to buy assets, of course, he can spend his money the way he likes. But he remains as director while in public office. That's a violation of our law. And then he's using offshore entity to buy it, meaning he doesn't want to be directly linked to those assets. So, and that as a way of triggering suspicion about why do you have assets that you are not proud to be known to have. So that is his own case. Then Stella Udua basically bought a lot of assets, worth 5 billion naira with cash, in what must have even shocked some, property dealers in the UK. So, and she also remained director of a particular company while in office as senator. So those are basically the issues. Number one, we have no evidence that they stole the money with which they acquired these assets. But we are saying that they acquired these assets using share companies, using nominate directors, and then at times not declaring those assets, and at times continuing to run private businesses while serving as public officers in Nigeria. Those were basically the issues.
Okay, Mojeed, still in line with the point you made about clarity. When I asked you the question earlier about whether it's illegal, that was deliberate. And I understand the fact that there are issues about tax avoidance, which is not a crime. It's tax evasion that is a crime. And issues about money laundering, issues about transparency and accountability, particularly where public officials are involved. But how about privacy? There are some persons who are involved in business transactions, and they say, look, I need my privacy. Tundun here probably can afford a private jet, but you probably will never find her buying a private jet. Or I don't know, maybe she has a private jet in the British Virgin Islands, but she's not the type of person that will flaunt it to impress anybody. Okay, so this is the distinction. You mentioned Peter Obi. A guy like Peter Obi, he was chairman of banks, of businesses, Next International, Fidelity Bank, even before he went into politics. And he probably kept his assets internationally. And now he gets dragged for, keeping his money even when he was involved in international business, just because he ventured into politics. How do we make that distinction? And yet, countries of the world, this is the second leg of it, talk about illicit international financial flows and the implications for revenue and accountability in parts of the world. What should those countries do? And how sincere do you think, that framework of global cooperation with regard to illicit international financial flows, is? How strong do you think it is? Because we need to draw the lines, the proper distinctions.
Well, if you venture, the rules are very clear, Dr. Abati. If you venture into politics, you should be clear that you are most likely going to lose your privacy. Now, he ventured into politics. And the Nigerian constitution is very clear that once you take up public office in Nigeria, you must declare your assets and that of your family members, including, you must declare your asset, that of your spouse, and those of your children who are not yet 18. That's what the law says. We didn't make those laws. That's what the Constitution says. So we agree that perhaps he made some money before becoming governor, but all he needed to do is to follow the law, declare the assets. Once the asset is known, the government will be able to determine whether it needed to pay taxes on them or not. But when the assets are not disclosed, how is government going to know that he hasn't stolen money while in office? Because when you declare your assets, government will be able to track whether while in office you were able to add additional assets, and then you'll be able to explain the source of those assets. But he failed to declare them. And when asked, he said he didn't know that he needed to disclose assets that he jointly owned with family members. But even in this particular case, he does not own the asset jointly with anyone. He is the ultimate beneficial owner of the asset. And the network of structures, of companies that he set up, from one, for instance, the Grebelia investment is in turn owned by the Grebelia settlement. Another company is then a shareholder in Grebelia settlement. And all the networks, so confusing that we had to track it all the way to Switzerland, where the ultimate controller are. So the point really is about nobody. No one is begrudging him for making money and for keeping his money where he likes to keep it. But all he needs to do is to comply with our laws. Step down. Don't run foreign accounts. That's what the law says. If you are reluctant to comply with the law that the country has laid down for his public office holder, then you don't, they say if you can't stand the heat, why go into the kitchen? So that's basically, you must know that taking public office, you must make certain sacrifice.
Right. I'm going to go back to my earlier question and sort of rephrase it. We have seen a pattern here of indifference, if not actual tolerance, to this kind of behavior from our leaders. What will it take to break it? Because in Iceland, I have to say, because I think your definition or the bar for you for casualty is lower than mine. I refer to Iceland and Pakistan because in Iceland, protesters, thousands, tens of thousands of protesters descended on the parliament in Iceland, and the prime minister was forced to resign. In Pakistan, not only was Nawaz Sharif forced to resign, he was disqualified from public office for 10 years as a result of the leaks in the Panama Papers. And here, our politicians who were named in the Panama Papers, all they got was maybe a few sneers, and that was about it. Why do we have this indifference, and what will it take to break it?
I don't know. You and I and Nigerians have to really, it's possible that we do not even understand the implication of this kind of behavior. Now, let me tell you, every time, I will come back to your question, but I just want to explain something about the implication. Governors all the time, we say they are going abroad to look for foreign investors. Now, if this kind of behavior is allowed, and if we stretch this investigation, you will find that some of the so-called foreign investors they bring into the country had their own companies, are representatives of their own companies. Companies they possibly incorporated in tax havens, and they will bring them back to say they are coming to do this in these states. The money ends up with them. Then they buy property around the world. So this kind of behavior does not allow transparency. It allows people to launder money. It allows public office holders to steal government funds, to steal public funds. And then we are unable to build roads for our people. We are unable to build hospitals for our people. We are even unable to pay salaries of teachers because money is being stolen from our country through this kind of schemes. So now I agree with you, Todun, that of course the casualty rate, there has been zero casualty, zero action in Nigeria, zero action. There are still pending issues arising from the Panama Papers. During the Panama Papers, we were able to determine that so many Nigerian public office holders were running companies while in public office. We are acquiring properties while in public office. These were clearly articulated in our reports during the Panama Papers. Nothing was done by government. It's possible because nothing was done because most of the people we have in public office in this country are in the same kind of behavior. So Nigerians will need to rise up and challenge their leaders. You know, because it seems the ethical standard of public office holder in Nigeria is pretty low. And it is our whole responsibility to really rise up and hold them to account and reject the kind of behavior that has left our countries in the way it is.
All right. Well, let's say a very big thank you to you, for your time and your insights in this. And we don't have any more time. We'll have to go now. But we'll probably look forward to what you're working on next. And we'll wait till when that breaks. So thank you for all the work you do.